Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today and thank you for your support. Back in the glory days of the Absolute Sound audio journal, when it was a digest-sized format like this, founder, editor, and main writer Harry Pearson would publish a super disc list, and it would look like that. It was mostly classical, but these were records that he felt were sonically superior records. Of course, it was always controversial what went on there, and one of the few Columbia recordings that made it onto that list for classical was this one, MS 6012, Beethoven Symphony No. 6 in F major, Pastoral, with Bruno Walter conducting the Columbia Symphony Orchestra. This list was so influential for many reasons. Collectors used to walk around with the list in their pockets when they went record shopping, trying to find those titles. Record companies that were doing reissues would generally consult that list to see what would be a choice title to reissue, one that had some recognition from those days. And I think that's what happened when Analogue Productions decided to do this title, one of their only Columbia titles as well. I have a few pressings of this. I have an original 6i pressing. Let me explain to you what that is, if you don't know. Columbia in the 50s and very early 60s had what was called the 6i label. For classical, it's gray and black. For jazz and pop, it's red and black. Red, white, and black. And if you can see, there is 6 logos to the side of the circle, and that is why it's called the 6i label. Later pressings had what were called a 2i label. Collectors generally go for the 6i pressing, though they're not always the best sounding. They are the closest to the original pressing, so that's why collectors favor them, and they do look super cool too. So I had a couple of these. I pulled out the best one I had for this evaluation, and I also have this one. This was in the Franklin Mint 100 Greatest Recordings of All Time. This was a deluxe set of 100 records that I've talked about on the channel before. Actually, I've done a review of the whole set. They chose this performance of Beethoven Symphony No. 6 for this set. This set was mainly chosen for performance value. There are mono recordings, there are historic recordings, there are modern recordings, and this one is one of the Columbia recordings that they chose to feature in this set. And the team that chose those titles or those particular performances were musicians, reviewers, music publishers, all kinds of experts decided to choose which of the recordings would go into this special set, and it was special. It consisted of 50 of these volumes with 2 records in each. The third I have is this. I just got it. It's the Analogue Productions version cut by Ryan K. Smith. Honestly, even though I understand the importance of this record, I don't find it to be a super disc, at least in the original pressing. The original pressing has moments of beauty. The orchestra is set back a bit, which is appropriate for this music, I think. It gives it a sort of a panoramic feel. Nothing's up close. It's just kind of a pastoral scene. That's how I think of it anyway. When the quiet moments in the beginning start, it's very beautiful. The strings, solo violins sound really beautiful, and each solo part is very, very pretty. But when things get going on this record, that's when there's some problems. And you realize that this may not be a super disc. Particularly on side 2, during climaxes, things get a little coarse and grainy. The string tone hardens, the space kind of shrinks up, and the music becomes hard sounding to me. It loses any separation that it had, and it has bass, but it's not real powerful. It seems constricted, and overall I don't find the original pressing to be a super disc. I don't know exactly why Harry Pearson chose it, but it may have been just a sentimental favorite, and there are some choices like that on this list. Still, magnificent performance, for sure. And the Columbia Symphony plays very well on this record as well. But I can't recommend this original pressing. It's just not a super disc. If you go into it thinking that you're going to get that, you'll be sorely disappointed. The Franklin Mint disc looks like this. Comes in these elaborate clamshell boxes that are almost like a CD case. They're pressed in this virgin vinyl compound in a clean room, and a lot of hype around it. They chose this performance to feature in here, and it's a good choice. I used to think that, and I still do to some extent, that the Columbia recordings that were chosen for this set turned out really good. They bypassed the mediocre mastering and vinyl of the earlier pressings. The recordings are what they are, and I was really curious how this would sound in this particular set. It does sound cleaner, it does sound more delicate, a little more beauty in the quiet parts, which is nice. A slightly better sense of space, but on the second side again, the climaxes reared their ugly head, and I didn't find that it was able to resolve the problems that are on the original recording. It's not bad, it's nice to have, but it's not one that I would search out either. This recording just, to me, has some issues, and please, if you are experienced with this recording, let me know if I'm missing something here. So recently I picked up some classical reissues from Analogue Productions just because I wanted to make sure I got them before they disappeared, and this was one of them. Well, for starters, they did it in a gatefold. The reproduction looks great, way better than the original. Let me show you the comparison. Yeah, you would think the original would look best, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't. It's a low luster gatefold, very nice. Some gorgeous pictures inside. The record, of course, is pressed at QRP, 180 gram vinyl, replicated the original label perfectly. You know, it's a delight to possess and look at and hold. But how does it sound? Did Ryan K. Smith turn this into a super disc? That is the question. Well, right from the start, the atmosphere is much better. The surfaces are the quietest of all of them. The tape hiss is lower. There is less distortion. The beauty and delicacy of the strings is enhanced here. There is a part, I'm not sure of the instrument, but there is a little part that's like dun, 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 the main theme at the beginning, and that sounds beautiful as well. When things start to get going on the first side, it holds together pretty well. There is a more deep bass floor for this record, so that is good too. It is less muddy overall because of the clarity and the lack of distortion overall. Still, on the second side, I still notice some issues that are just not able to be overcome even with the most expert of mastering jobs, which this is. Those climaxes can still sound compressed and a little bit muddy to me. Overall, though, it is a much better impression of the record than either of the earlier pressings had. I think if you wish to own this record, this is probably the one to get, but be aware that this recording has some deficiencies, and I don't believe it's anything in my system because everything else is reproducing really well. It's just something that comes with this recording, but the trade-off is very, very high. You get Bruno Walter's beautiful interpretation of this, and it's a classic of the phonograph. It really is. This version is still available. It's $40 on the on the Acoustic Sounds website. Overall, I can recommend this with some reservations. Do audition it on streaming to make sure that you're okay with the sound you hear there. If you are, then go ahead and get this one. I think you'll like it. If you have an original pressing and you need an upgrade, definitely. It's way better than the original pressing. There's no question about that. So until next time, I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.